Okay, welcome back. I was about to show what I'm doing through the strings more clearly with a single needle when I'm poking the hammer, so it can be seen really easily. So here we are. I kind of need a wide view for this a little bit. So we were working on these notes here a minute ago, and you can see that if I look closely, I can see the ink marks where the strings hit, right? Or on some pianos, you can see grooves where they've worn in. In this case, we didn't have any grooves yet. So what I'm going to do is demo what I'm doing here. So the first thing is you play the key. Let's say it's this one. Okay, you play the key and let it go into check. Okay. Now I'm going to bring the camera closer here so you can see. I stick my needle down through the strings. Okay. And then I can poke this, but what I'm going to do is I don't want to poke it against this back check here and bend this adjustment, which has been adjusted carefully. I'm going to put it, I'm just going to gently push at the same time as I'm letting up on the key just a little bit. I'm going to let up on the key just a little bit at the same time as I push down, just enough to let the hammer go down. And now it's kind of caught down here, okay? The back check keeps it from going up, and there's a cushion below that now when I push on the hammer and poke it with the needle, it's supported by the cushion below here. Okay, I'm going to get you closer there if I can. So here it's caught. I'm still holding it with my hand on the key, and I can push and I can plunge. Now, for most of these freshly lacquered hammers, I'm lightly just breaking up a crust that I can feel right around the string areas. And then I'm going to the middle, maybe the middle back a little bit, but middle, and I'm letting the hammer go down all the way like this. I'm letting pressure off the key completely. And then I'm not going to do it on this hammer because I don't know what it sounds like. And then I'm plunging as deep as I would choose to go. And the deeper you go, the bigger effect you're going to have typically, right? So if you want to just be conservative at first, but, well, I should also say, though, there comes a point with these lacquered hammers when you're voicing them, if you don't go deep enough, you lose out. If I go deep initially and then I pull, as this hardens back up a little bit, as it's played a few times, it gets a really good tone because I went a little deeper, if that makes any sense. But that's what I'm doing as I'm sticking this through the strings. And usually I can reach, 2, and then I have to switch to the other side of the note and reach the third one, or vice versa, okay? Sometimes I'll shift the action over just a little bit, with the pedal so that I can reach just a little bit better. But that's what I was doing with the single needle, and you can see how far this needle's not out very far. Let me give you an actual measurement to it. Let's see, I'm going to put an actual measurement to how far this needle's out. Let's go millimeters. So my needle currently is precisely 4 millimeters, 4.25 millimeters long. Okay. Now, in a big bass hammer, maybe there's times you'd want it longer, but I carry this around with me, this length. When I change out the needle, I replace it to roughly this length, maybe a little longer, if anything. And it does just fine for voicing these Steinways with what I'm doing. Okay. So what I showed you on the hammers there, that's going to be an initial thing that I'll do if it's a really hard hammer. If it's not so hard, I might just kind of break up the crust and listen, you know, or I might not go as deep when I plunge to make less of a change. And then as we play through and I start to get things even kind of at one dynamic level, I'm going to start kind of quieter dynamics. Then I'm going to hear the piano in more of a variety of dynamics. I'm going to play it in different gestures. And if something sticks out to me, then I'm going to needle in a different area of the hammer. The louder I get, I'm going to go towards me a little bit, okay? Now, some people will say opposite things here, but I know what works for me, right? So that's all I can say. So I'm going to go towards me a little bit until I feel it getting hard on that, just off the string groove, or just forward a little bit on it. And then I'll plunge in those hard spots to work on the loud dynamics. For the soft dynamics, if there's not enough, if it's not smooth enough, I can go away from me on that end of the string grooves, but I have to be really careful there. I don't want to overdo that, or it'll make the piano sound kind of dead, stuffy. Okay, I'm going to put this back in and keep voicing. So I really appreciate this the discovery of the streaming that I've had, being able to stream, because I really get bogged down. I've got tons and tons of footage of stuff I've done, probably higher quality sound and picture, but I just get bogged down in the post-production process and the editing sometimes. And so this is so nice just to be able to spit out some of the concepts that I've been trying to share. And then we can get prettier versions of it as we go, I imagine. But so I hope it's still useful. And I'm not abandoning making videos altogether. It's just, it's kind of fun having a stream along with what I'm doing. Okay, this is where we left off, if you can't tell. Okay, so I'm going to do what I talked about. I'm going to just kind of lightly break the crust on these. Then I'm going to go right in the middle of the string groove and plunge deep. These are quite hard. Now it's a nice round sound, but it can also be bright and nasty. This G has a little bit too much sparkle, and it's on the left string. So I'm going to just go look on the left string and there. And I'm basically setting the mezzo piano dynamic of the piano right now, okay? And the tone color of it at that dynamic. This is why the New York Steinways are a lot of fun, because you can kind of have a real intimate, mellow sound at a lower dynamic, and then a real bright, piercing sound at a higher dynamic. Okay, so I'm going to carry on just because these are just too hard. And as I go up higher, these notes are very fragile as far as power and sustain. So I may not plunge the needle as deep, because I don't want to kill all the power here, or it will be imbalanced in that respect. Even if it's you know, really bright, it can be imbalanced. But you know, these notes actually on this piano are really good. This area is good. It's nice. And I can always come and revisit, you know, as needed. So this is an initial evening out, okay? So just a nasty, bright, metallic sound right now with that one. Now it's better. I'm going back on some of these that I hit already and just kind of revisiting. And I'll move on. So if you've deep lacquered hammers like this and they're really strong, you can afford to do this where you kind of just break up the crust and then a deep plunge. And you could almost do that on every note of the piano just about. And it'll be really good. I mean, there's more to it than that, but. So now I'm just listening where those high harmonics are really loud on the right string here. Here's the middle, right, left. So that pingy sound is a hard spot, more than likely on the right string. Got it. Okay, we got to get this ugly note. You hear a lot of like zzz in that sound, a higher pitch, of course. This D on the first note of the break will often sound kind of gross like that. And for some reason, it's harder to tone it down sometimes. I didn't do these first few notes of the section because they weren't nearly as bright before as the others. But now I'm going to go ahead and hit them. Sometimes, I'll bring this up now, sometimes so sometimes I could deep lacquer and then I have to needle, and that gives me my body and the ability to have loud dynamics that are projected in a pleasing way. But after I needle it the first time, it could be that the top is maybe a little too soft or something, so it's uneven. I can go back through and do drops of a hardener too to kind of then introduce that into the piano. Like if it's under bright, I can do that to balance out the bright. And I like to. It can be easy to go too far. So I like to just pick out the worst ones, you know, and kind of start from there and go with that. So I'm just plunging the needle in like we were doing before. Okay, so if it just sounds too hard of an attack, then you know it needs to be softer a little bit, and it'll beautify the tone. And notice so far, I'm making a huge change in the tone with one prick of a needle, right? That's kind of nice, you know, to be able to change the tone really quickly. The things we did prior to this help that, the hammer shaping. Now, if I had gone straight to just leave the piano as it was, not lacquered the hammers, and if I had one that was too bright, I would have to be really careful. And if I did a needle on this to try and get the color I want, there would be nothing left. It would be like dead, you know. So this will be much more colorful. So I'm still just poking just about in every string groove on most of these notes. The ones that feel strong under my finger. Okay, Andrew says, how deep are you going onto those higher notes? Not the full 4 millimeters. Nope. Yeah, that's about all the felt. That's more felt than there is. I'm going, let me see, so I don't lie to you. Let me check. Let me do this B here. I'm going about halfway, couple millimeters. And you have to realize I'm just sticking like a single hole there, right? Initially in a place that's been hardened with lacquer. And then that hole's going to kind of heal as I move the needle out. And it'll kind of re-solidify a little bit. So it's not... Sometimes I'll touch up the tuning as I go. I bet on this treble section here that I'm working on, I think what I'm probably going to end up doing is needling this down and then putting some drops of what I was mentioned before is called Paraloid B72, just to give it a little more immediacy of sound. That's the challenge sometimes with this area is you don't want it to sound anemic. You want it to have not too thin of a sound, but it's got to have enough power to carry. Okay, so you're saying, so you need to be extra careful to not go too far on the upper end since you would want to keep it brighter there. Yes, brighter. I want to keep it stronger there. I don't want it bright, otherwise it's too bright or it sounds thin and metallic, and I don't want that. Okay, so, but yeah, so you do have to be careful not to go too far with that. And then, you know, don't be afraid to strengthen it up again, because this is the melody section. If people want it to speak out nice and clean. But what will happen is when I put that other hardener on, it probably won't go as bright. It'll just strengthen it a bit. Okay. So like this B is still too bright or too much attack. So I do need to fix that because that just it makes the note sound thin. There, now it goes to the back of the room better. So I've hit pretty much everything in that top two treble sections that was like ugly sounding. And I might revisit it, but probably not. I just want to leave it be, except for this D. I told you this D is hard. It gets bad quickly. Okay, now I'm going to move down to this middle section. And these sections are a little more forgiving. They'll keep kind of coming back. So you'll think, oh no, I've killed the note. Only to find out just a few minutes later, oh no, I didn't. It came back fine. And believe it or not, I found that needling right in the middle of the groove is the safest. It'll recover the best from there. If I go off from there, I'm affecting kind of the louder dynamic range. And that's not necessarily that's kind of where the note can sound dead. And when you first poke it, it'll kind of sound like, oh no, I've lost all my harmonic sounds. I've lost all my partials, all my high frequencies. I don't want that. That sounds too mellow. It'll come back really quick, but will then blend with the rest. Anything that sounds thin and metallic and just kind of out of place, that's kind of what we're looking to. Those are those hard spots that we're looking to eliminate on the initial pass. So I remembered about this C sharp before I wanted to see how it was doing. Right now I'm mostly addressing just kind of the overall tone color of it. Not if there's one note that's really powerful next to another. We'll deal with that in a sec. Look, them things will pop out again from up here, so I'll go ahead and revisit them when they come out of balance with the lower notes. I'm just isolating the strings with my fingers to hear sometimes which one is which one would be the offender if there's one that's overly bright. It's on this note that I'll shift over on this end note here because it's hard to reach the groove sometimes otherwise. This B flat's just a little strong, so again I'm going to go in the middle and I'll go a little deeper maybe. So to kind of a little bit of a recap, the What am I trying to say? So deep lacquering. The deep lacquering allows there to be enough strength of tone to project and carry and still have a more mellow sound in general on the piano. And not just mellow, but mellow and bright. I really like this flavor of tone because it kind of reminds me of the idea. I'm a vocalist by training. It reminds me of the idea of chiaroscuro, which we talk about in vocal tone, bright and dark, and it just makes for a real beauty, you know. Okay, Andrew says they did voice at the factory, but doing the deep lacquering basically resets all that. He's asking. Yeah, so they voiced at the factory, but what ended up happening, they didn't the inside of the hammer, the core of it, didn't get as hard, and so they made it project by hardening then the surface a little bit, and so it had attack and it had brightness and evenness because then they needled it to even it, but it didn't have as bulky, monstrous of a tone, and you're not able to hear that on the stream that we've gained that as well because the limiter on the audio just kind of cuts out as soon as it kind of hits that level. But so the deep lacquering doesn't. I guess yeah, you could say it resets. We're just revoicing it again, so that you'll get lacquer throughout the hammer, and you're going to need to needle and do things to reset the arrangement there. Yeah, yeah, you could say that. But it's kind of like out of the factory, it was like this, kind of bright. It's hard to describe. It was a little hollow. That's the best way I can describe it. Where you have the bright and punchy sound, but you don't have the body underneath it, and the variety of color, the variety of brights and darks, and the ability to kind of play with that more. And the way I'm voicing it now, it's easier to make a gesture dynamically where you come down all of a sudden. I don't have very good ideas musically right now, but I'll show some examples once we're done voicing. So I'm just carrying on down, getting the hardness. Again, I'll hear these kind of pop out again here and there. So now, as I'm voicing this down and making it more mellow, essentially for the softer dynamics, we still will have access to the loud dynamics easily. It makes the piano feel lighter, more responsive, and so on. And you feel like you can play loud easily and you can play soft easily.
So I'm just listening for things that stick out in character as, not like the things around it. When I listened to a sample of this stream before to see how this piano was coming through, it's like you don't hear any of the sustain. You can correct me if I'm wrong. If you're hearing it, okay, great. But the sustain is starting to be like really voluptuous on this. Where it just sounds velvety and nice. But I can still be. I can be bright and punchy too. So you can just create lots of colors. If you're just joining us, I'm just continuing to voice this piano. I don't like that sound. It's a little too metallic. If I tone it down, it might be too weak though, and that's what I'm going to address. That one's not too weak. That one has plenty of strength. This one is hard, or when I'm pressing it in a chord, it doesn't sound right. So I'm just some hardness I have to work through on these.
I'm pushing the unicorda pedal now and voicing there. Because I'm finding now that it doesn't sound super even. There's some notes that stick out as being metallic. They've just gotten too hard on the top. So they just have a weird sound to them, which I don't like. The C sharp, I'm going to check the mating again on it. Yeah, as I suspected, the mating can sometimes get off where it's not hitting all three strings at the same time anymore. And it'll make it kind of bright. And you'll keep chasing that with a needle and it's just getting weaker. You don't want that. In this case, some of the areas I've needled got puffed up a bit, and they're hitting the strings first, making a bad tone. Let's see if that's any better. F sharp is popped back too strong. And it's not like you'll never arrive. These do sit down after a while, you know, and you get a more stable voicing. Sometimes it just takes a few rounds. So it might be a mating thing. Yep. So we want to fix that. E flat. So this is voicing. You're just kind of finding it. I'm gonna change how far the action moves over a little bit to get a better sound out of the unicorda pedal. I would just sometimes I'll just play around with it, push it further or not as far with my foot, and see if it's a better sound. And in this case, I think it will be. Let's see if I went too far with it. But. the fun part for me about voicing, it's like you have kind of a paintbrush here, and you get to choose where you're going with it. You know, and in certain situations, I wouldn't be as aggressive with what I'm doing. You know, if the piano needed to be brighter or whatever, I could go that way. You know? Don't like that sound. Don't like that sound at all. I don't like this little kingy metallic stuff. Okay, so we got a comment here. Do you expect that you will be touching up the needling tomorrow and again after delivery, or will what you are doing tonight largely hold? Voicing is always a work in progress, so I expect that every time I tune this instrument, just about, especially when it's new, I'm going to pick at things a little bit. But overall, it should hold its general character. And as it gets played on, that'll create hard spots on the hammers, and the grooves will wear in different ways. So it'll change. So usually, to me, voicing, touch-up voicing like this and tuning kind of have to go together to make the piano sound at its best. Do you feel like, those of you who are tuning in here, do you feel like you can hear the color changes as I'm voicing, or is it like, we can't even hear the difference because of the quality of the sound? Despite my best efforts to make that edge soft when we filed the hammers, it's hard on some of these, and it'll make a ping. Okay, so Andrew says he can definitely hear when it sounds too metallic. I think the main thing we lose is the sustain, because the way the audio works is it chokes it's the sound, or if it, also the dynamic range. Right, it's kind of compressing things, I think. But I just feel like I have so much more control over the sound now as I'm starting to voice it compared to what we had before. It's like I had three colors to work with before, and now it's kind of like a wash of a palette that you have that you can mess around with. I'm not like reveling in my own playing here, if you're wondering. I'm just trying to feel the instrument out. Just trying to see like where does it shine? Can I do what I want? Is there anything that bothers me? Okay, here, listen to this note. It hit that hard edge I was talking about as I'm moving the keyboard over. So I need to make those edges softer again. Maybe I need to pull it out and file them again. The notes here in that they're getting a real weird quality for the una quarta. So I'm just kind of working on that on the una quarta. For the most part, I like the way the bass sounds as is. Maybe just a few notes I'd want to pick at that I can tell now. This note it's fine in the softer dynamics, but it gets a little metallic in an unbalanced way as I crescendo. And so now I needled. You get a hard ridge kind of form just to this side of the string cuts on the hammer, and so I was needling that. I don't think there's any harm in taking a piano that's overly bright and experimenting with a note or two, upright or grand. When I poke this with a needle, what's the sound going to be? And you'll kind of learn as you go that way. Do I also check the string mating with unicorda? Oh, did I with the unicorda? No. Because, yeah, I don't. I don't typically check it with the unicorda. I don't know. I think the risk of changing the regular position is too great, and the work at that point. What I like to do is just over time, as the piano's played a little bit, the una corda will sound a little better. I don't know if that's bad, but it's already actually sounding a lot better to me as I'm picking at things that just sound weird to me. It's the unicorda sound is better. The it's too much contrast, I think, for like if this were a concerto piano, no way. It comes down way too much. I think it would just get lost in the orchestra. I'm just still picking at a few that are kind of coming up, and really it's getting a lot better. You know, sometimes I think if I just wouldn't fuss and just play and just poke them, just hurry up and voice it. You know, when I'm by myself, I might do that. But also a nicer piano, you know, I want to take my time and really explore it. Yeah, this piano before it had a definite shelf where you couldn't really grow bigger than that, and if you wanted to, you'd kind of pound into the piano more, and it wouldn't yield anything back. Now it does. You're probably hearing the opposite of that from the mic, but okay, now I've gone through. And it gets exciting there at the end. It gets exciting as it goes down to the bass. It grows a little bit, which is good. There's still some pingy stuff that bugs me. It just sounds like a little bit of an imbalanced chord here or there. So now if I go with octaves or something and play those octaves up and down, then I'll pick out octave pairs that are not balanced with each other. Like this one. This is way out of tune also, but see what happens. Okay. So this upper A is too loud. Too loud compared to the bottom member, okay? So I'm gonna stab in the middle and deeper again. Same thing a little bit with the B flat here. Just a little too hard. And the B. So now we're kind of balancing the registers together. This one sticks out a lot. Sounds out of balance with its lower neighbor there of the octave. Lower member, I guess. So it smooths out the scale so that nothing's popping out when my fingers are even. I don't want the sound to pop out. This note's a hard one. It's gonna keep popping out a lot, and that's just normal. The G's just a little. It's got that sparkly ping above the lower one. I'm gonna check the mating on that. Fix the mating a bit. Forgot what it was. Let me listen again. The outside strings, mostly the left one, are a little high. Not the strings, but the hammer. The part of the felted hammer right there is a little high on the outsides. And it's mostly a result of needling. So I don't say to myself, all these strings have to be perfectly mated and then I'm done voicing the piano. Right? It's the note has to sound good and then I'm done voicing the piano. I don't care. I don't truly care if it's perfectly mated as long as it sounds good. We check the mating on the A. It's good. So I'm free to I can feel free to kind of needle that one. It did stick out just a little bit. Just popped out a little bit above the note below it. The B also sticks out above the registers below it. I can go double octaves, I can go single octaves. little fifths and fourths. That fifth exposed to this F. Because sometimes the octaves might be balanced, but they're both loud or something compared to the other intervals around it. The D sticks out. I'm gonna check the mating. I think the mating's good enough. So I'm just gonna needle it a bit. Sure enough, it's hard as a rock up there. I'm gonna get this one here. This isn't brighter to me than this down here, but it's stronger. So it kind of popped out when I was trying to do a smooth scale, so I'm going to just even that down. This dumb C sharp keeps rearing its ugly head. It's just an ugly note. After a while, you have to check, is it the upper one or the lower one? Because sometimes it's the lower one, and it'll sound like the upper one that's louder. So it has a certain quality to it when it's balanced. This G, again, like I said, sometimes it's the lower one or both of them that don't match the octaves around it. In the case of the G, it was kind of both of them, I think, here. We'll bring that down. Yeah, so now I kind of even the octaves one from another. So now I'm finding pairs that I'm kind of bringing down a little bit. The best way to describe it is, one way to find the notes that stick out is it'll sound like the pianist is hitting them harder, but they're not. And I want a color change on these notes to go from mellow to bright and intense, but I kind of want it to happen evenly with the notes. And the comment would be, a common thing that you'd hear is after you voice, wow, I love what you've done with the touch. Because it feels better, it feels more controllable. When in reality, we just change the tonal response. So much of voicing is what you feel also with the keys. If I voice it, I could voice it really mellow, and it would actually sound really gorgeous to most people in a hall. And they think, wow, that's great. And the pianist would be like, ugh. I have to work way too hard to play this piano. I can't bring anything out. On the flip side, a pianist could experience a piano up close and say, they could say, wow, it's so great. I feel like I'm projecting. It's so great. But really what they're getting is it's kind of bright and an immediate sound. And that doesn't necessarily translate into the sound that we hear in the hall, but they feel comfortable. I think the best thing is to make the pianist comfortable. That's my philosophy, is if they're comfortable, they're going to make the best colors they can. And the really great performers that have a lot of experience in just making magic with the piano in a hall, they can do that if things are even and they have that dynamic range and color range available. So right now I've got kind of a more mellow tone when I play softer dynamics. It's getting pretty even. As far as the touch response, I actually want it to be pepped up just a little more on the surface layers of the hammer. I don't want to just go back to metallic, but I don't think it will at this point if I just put a little bit of a drop on something. So I'll demonstrate that. I'm just going to pick it a few more here. Now I could just wait until this piano was played a bunch and it would get stronger and have more clarity and punch and what I'm seeking that now that it's lacking. And actually it's really good. And this room teases you into voicing the piano bigger and brighter because it feels like it's too small and mellow otherwise, but I do want it brighter. I know where it's going. I know the space where it's going. I think people are going to be happier if it's just a little bit brighter, but not annoyingly metallic, right? And so I'm just going to get this D, and then I'm going to apply some paraloid. This piano would be really acceptable to a lot of people, but I think it's too swallowed up here. There it finally starts to come out, you know, above the water. Here it's just a little bit underwater. And you might say, well, you just needled it that way. But I had to needle it that way. It didn't sound good the other way, you know. So it's not like we're just going back and forth. It's a little more, I think, involved in that. And so I think I'm going to go. I'm just choosing, I'm listening for where I want to apply the hardener. I think up here is great. Up here sounds great to me already. But in here it's just swallowed. And honestly, I think part of it is the strike point. So obviously the strike point's not right here. You're not getting any sound, but versus I'm just trying to determine whether or not moving the strike point would help or just hardening it. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just kind of moving the action a little bit, just pushing it in and out, trying to hear the hammers, different spots. It does sound a little better when it's just a little bit out versus when it's where it was. These sound a little muted more. It sounds a little more clear to me. But I don't know. I'm still kind of torn. Let me think about it here for a sec. I'm going to add paraloid and go with the same strike point, I think. So, if I have any paraloid, but I do. So this is very clear stuff and it dries really, really quickly. I'll show you what I'm going to do with it and we'll see what happens here. Whether it gives us what we want. Okay. Don't really want to put it on the in a quarter position for sure. But and the tops of these hammers felt pretty hard to me when I was needling them. So I wonder if just on the back side, I'm just gonna just go off the string cuts a bit back here. I'm wondering if that's where we're deficient here. I think this is plenty hard up here on this front side. I am going to, though, go right on the string grooves just a bit. This might really make me dislike the sound when the unicorda is played. I'm gonna see. Let's see, how far down are we? I don't want to go down where these were, where I was getting weird nastiness. I don't think. Well, we'll see. We can backtrack if we need to. All right. So I'm gonna see where that takes us, and I'm also, just for fun, just gonna go one on the grooves of from middle C up. Just one drop on the strike here. We'll see what that does pretty quickly here. So, okay. Okay, how deep? I'm gonna read this comment here. Andrew says, when you deep lacquered last night, how deep did you go now that you have the action out? Oh, you want to see? I mean, I go straight down from the crown. So let me hold the hammer up here. I go straight down from the crown and let it soak in all the way till it starts to hit the top of the wood molding and the underfelt, the colored underfelt. And then up here on the top, I maybe let it soak in a little deeper down into the shoulders of the treble. Yeah. So that's what I did there. So this is, watch, if I set a timer, it'll be just about right. So we've got a few minutes here, but I'm going to play it in as we listen to it as it dries. And so I didn't touch it with this. I didn't touch the top portion at all. What I'm doing is I'm shifting the action back and forth slowly as I play. In an effort to keep too hard of a crust from forming. Especially in the una quarta position. This has already started to bring this up. It dries really fast. You don't have to. You don't have to play it in like this, but I feel like I'm saving myself some steps maybe in this case. Now the piano speaks out a little bit where I feel like it's kind of just above the water. The paraloid is thinned with acetone. The acetone will dissolve the lacquer that's already in there and reconstitute. That'll kick in a little bit later in hardness than the brightness that's going to come from the paraloid drying. But I find that later kick that's maybe 20-30 minutes instead of 10 to 15. It actually strengthens the piano in a good way without making it sound ugly. That's been my experience with it. But now I already don't feel like this is weak. For fun, I'm going to hear what it sounds like now as I pull the action out a little bit. To me, that tone just sounds more normal, more clear, whereas when I push it here, it kind of sounds nasally. Especially in this area. So like I'm sorely tempted to rehang that section of hammers just like on the piano that I did in the shop earlier. So I am going to do that. I mean, it doesn't sound bad in the other place, but this is with the unicorda. I don't know. I'm going back and forth between to leave it as is or try and rehang the hammer. I think I'm going to leave it as is in this case. It sounds good enough. That sounds bad. Good enough, with a $200,000 piano, but within the scope of how a $200,000 piano should sound, it's very, very acceptable still. But notice this is getting stronger, and it hasn't reintroduced all the nasty metallic except on like one note. the G. So it's not like I just went right back to where I came from after I lacquered and needled. It is different. I don't know if you can hear what I'm talking about with that. I love the paraloid. It brought that out with more clarity without without introducing the ugly. This is down here where I put the drops. I do need to kind of rein that in a little bit to blend it. Otherwise, I started from the middle C. It doesn't blend very well, so let's blend that in. Again, I'm not just going right back. I'm not going right back where I came from. I'm introducing a little more hardness or solidness to the hammer. Something's wrong there. Anyway, and then just taking a little bit of the the edge out, but we're left with a better sounding note in the end that's not swallowed. These still sound more chubby. This might be really lame to watch me just kind of play around with this, but for me, it's a process like this. This is how how I arrive at what I think, a really good sounding piano is, to just play with it and see where I could take it. Tuning's moved around now that I turned off the AC, but that's okay. What's interesting is this strengthens up. I thought this was so strong before, and now as this part strengthens up, I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, has that gotten weaker? But it hasn't. Look, even after all that hardener, this upper part still sounds even with the lower, except for like this one G. We're just still evening stuff out. Anything that bugs me. bad we can't have some before and afters, you know, where it was before that, you know, when we first opened it, but. Now I'm getting some of the maybe in a quarter position, some of these right. We just need to fix them. All right, I know I'm working kind of silently, so just gonna. Tighten this screw down. I feel like the action's moving on me a little bit as I'm voicing and hitting it in a quarter pedal, and it's kind of Just checking the piano levels, pianissimo, when I play that way. But just making sure things sound good. I don't know how another way to put it, right? Tune's moving around for sure. You might have seen some rebuilding shops have this like pounder, right, or or a factory will have a pounder that pounds the piano in. So I'm my own pounder, I guess. What about the chord up? It's just a little strong there. You know, when I first played this piano yesterday, I was saying, oh, you know, the action doesn't repeat great. And now when I played, it's just kind of like, I don't play very well, but now it feels like it repeats great. So I don't know if it's just that the sound makes it worth it to try harder to play or what, you know. I am going to look at the regulation now. You know, it's hard to say if I'm experiencing stuff hardening still from the lacquer and acetone that I just put on, but or if I'm just finding some that I didn't notice before. I just wanted to make sure that una corda didn't sound too weird. Too weird. I just got to pick at it a little bit. Quite get what I need to, I guess. There, now the pulse are just kind of popping out for me. It started to get interesting to play. I'm a piano technician, not a piano performer, so you don't have to critique my performance. See, we just have to know enough to make similar gestures as what someone who really knows what they're doing is going to do. And then you know it's going to work well for them. But we don't have to hit all the right notes. I'm really liking this now. See, I can be soft and ethereal. Except on that note that I didn't voice in a quarter right. But it's getting really interesting, getting really good to play now. And I apologize, it probably just sounds annoying on the stream because of the the way it handles audio on this, but I am going to do we'll take a little snapshot here and record some sounds and post them so you can hear a better version of what it sounds like. But first I'm going to let's regulate it if it needs any. Sorry, some of these notes just sound so weird to me. Record that. I also like how the unicorda, it doesn't get totally swallowed anymore. So now it's not, I can be mellow and soft. And bright and loud, whatever. I can be big. Like huge now. So, okay, what I'm going to look at with regulation, some of the most critical things I'll show you are, I'm going to look at the jack position, and the jack lifts the hammer up. So let's get in here, see what's going on. Should probably do a battery check on our mobile cam here. And it looks good. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to look and see if the jack is positioned where I want it on this. And for those of you who don't know what the jack is, it's this piece right here that I'm wiggling. Okay, and that button there, that felted button controls with the screw where it starts at rest position. So that's what I'm going to be checking. And I don't remember the best way. I did this the other day to show it on camera. I don't think I can, unfortunately, to show really what I'm looking at, but just know that I'm looking at that jack position front to back, and I'll tell you what if I see like a trend with these, but I don't. They're pretty good. They're pretty good. I only changed one so far. Two that I've changed now. So this puts it in an optimal position underneath the to lift the hammer shank, and so that's all we're checking there. Curious, I kind of went in my own world voicing there for a while. If anyone has any questions or comments or suggestions or anything, feel free to chime in on the chat. I feel like voicing is kind of like that. You just kind of have to get in the zone and make the piano sound and feel really nice. and make it inspiring to play. I know not everybody approaches this work that way, but I do. I played piano my whole life, and it's been, a way of emoting and uh, and processing things for me. And so I really respond to the musical possibilities that I'm trying to create. Okay. So I only changed like a handful. These were all really great. And I don't think, oh, someone messed up because I had to change a few. It's not like that at all. It's a really good regulation job that's on these pianos, when they come through. Okay, so I checked that half. Now I'm going to check this half of the keyboard. And actually, I'm going to film this way so I can look in to the action. And I purposefully don't have my head directly over where the jack is to have a perfect line of sight to align it. Some people might think you're not doing it right, but I know what I'm doing. The way when it looks right to me from this position, the jack will actually be slightly back, and you'll get a little bit better repetition than would otherwise be the case. It's been my experience, so that's why I do it this way. I think when I kind of passed the piano off just now, voicing it, I think it's because I'm not positive, but I think that's the point where the acetone that had that partner in it that I put on just the very top, the paraloid we call it, it dissolved some of the lacquer that was in here, and I think that point was where the lacquer then kind of hardened again, and so the tone sounded correct to me. So again, I'm hardly changing these at all, if at all. And of course, the piano comes regulated, and it's regulated really well. I'm just checking, just kind of double checking, seeing if there's anything that I would want to tweak to make it perform a little better. But I have the highest respect for the factory workers who are able to put this together the way they do. And I think it's amazing what they do in such a relatively short amount of time. If I could just sit in the factory and learn from each station, I would gladly just sit there and watch them and just learn. So it's not like these are all off in one particular way or anything. There's just a few, and it goes both ways, I'm kind of adjusting. So there's no trend that I see that is problematic in how the piano is going to function. They're all really great. And I sight this jack so that it goes right under the knuckle core. But usually the back side of it aligns with the back side of the knuckle core. The knuckle core is just a piece of wood in there. And it's just a point, which makes it so that when it rolls up, you know it's going to work well. Okay. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is just see if the jacks all return okay. I'm going to look through the window. I would expect they do. There's one that's a little off. So this is I'm actually adjusting what's called the repetition lever height. And this allows the jack to return back underneath the knuckle after it's played once and play again. So we want both parts supporting the hammer weight, but then the jack needs to be able to return easily. So this I'm tweaking a little bit, just from probably result of the wear that's occurred, just from what playing this has had. Mm. So these are all spade screws just being turned by this tool. And you just kind of learn, okay, if I turn this direction, it's going to move it this way or that way, and your brain just memorizes that after a while. Okay. Doing this mostly by feel right now. Okay, let's see. Is there any adjustment to lighten the force needed to press the una corda pedal? Okay. So let me show you what's responsible for that in just 1 second. So there's a spring that you're pushing against, a double leaf spring on the treble side of the piano here. So you're pushing the action against that spring. So you can pull that spring out and bend it to weaken it, but it has to be strong enough so that the action returns well. So there are certain pianos, certain Steinway, some of the older ones, that spring is really hard to push, but if you weaken it too much, the action won't return well. But I'll show you that spring. And it's usually mounted with 4 screws, and you just unscrew those. You take them off. You could take like a claw hammer, hammer with one of those nail remover claws on the back, just a regular hammer, and you can kind of pry the metal bent so that it's not as um, as tight a curve. So if the spring comes out with two sides like this, you know, my fingers in my hand. And so if you bend it so it's not as exaggerated, it's a little bit easier to push the pedal. But that's that, yeah. So it's just the other thing is sometimes the blocks on the end that are designed to hold the action in place, if they're clamping the action down too tightly, then you're gonna feel some friction. So if what you're feeling is the spring, adjust the spring. If what you're feeling is friction, then you need to address how tightly those blocks clamp the frame down, and somehow take pressure off of that, or lubricate it, or something, or both, so that it's easier to operate the unicorda pedal. What kind of piano are we talking about, Andrew? If you're still there. It's a Steinway amp. Yeah. Is it from, and I know, I'm sorry, and I apologize, we may have talked about your particular piano before. Is it an older one, like from the 70s, 80s? Meanwhile, I'll show you the spring. And it's basically the same in pretty much every piano. See that leaf spring right there? So you just need to take out those screws, that spring will come right out, and then you can change the bends on it so that it doesn't come out quite as far. But you have to make sure there's not too much friction so that the action can operate smoothly. So 19, apologize, I'm a little far from the computer screen for 1936. Okay, yeah. It's a common thing people ask about on the older Steinways, because that spring can, they were heavier or something, and the actions were heavier, probably had more lead on some of those, maybe not on yours, but then you'd have to weaken that spring. So all right, now I'm going to check my springs here. I would guess everything is in order because I didn't have any trouble playing the piano. I'm also just kind of just checking if I need to. Okay. I'm going to check how these rebound after they go into check. Going into check is when it catches on that yellow part in the back. So I'm going to make this checking a lot better here. Some of them are quite low. See if I can get a view of what I'm doing here. Just adjusting this height where they get caught, making it all even, more or less, because then it'll change kind of the feel of the action. It'll feel maybe a little lighter, maybe a little heavier, depending on how far these stop from the strings. And so it's important to have it even. And these are looking good, as I would expect. You know, some that maybe are low, who knows, maybe just in needling, I inadvertently pushed them down or someone else did. And you know, that can happen. So, and I'm basically pulling it or pushing it, that yellow part, and it's just bending the wire that it's mounted on, which is quite a robust wire actually. So it's a pretty stable adjustment, if you're wondering on that. So I apologize, I'm running out of gas a little bit, I think, here for the night, but okay. I'm kind of having to cram a lot of work into the evenings this week. That's not necessarily a regular thing for me, but doing this, you kind of have to play them all with a similar weight and hold them down, hold the keys down with a similar force to get kind of an accurate reading of what it's going to do in the piano to be able to set them even. That's kind of a skill in and of itself. Takes a little bit to get better at, I think. Okay, so I set the checking. It's called setting the checking, and I'm going to do it up here. Just make that even with the part across from it, the hammer across from it. Well, for the most part, I'm just raising these up a little bit. And I want to make sure they're not going to drag, and they're not. If you play really hard, the shank can bend, you know, before when it's on its way up, and you have to check that clearance with the catch, the back check and back on a really hard blow. Sometimes it'll drag, and that'll cause a problem where you think you're going to play harder and you can't, and it's because you're being limited by that. It starts to act as a brake on the really hard playing. Okay. Let's see, is that? Here's another comment. Let's see. Let me read that just 1 second, Andrew. All right, let's see. It says, is that the desired speed you want the hammers to rise out of check? This piano is a little bit on the tame side, but I'm okay with that. It's strong enough. I can feel it's very well balanced. So yeah, it is. I like the way the springs are set in this case. I might set some a little hotter than others, depending on what kind of piano it is, depending on if I want a little oomph, you know, a repetition. And I don't really, I think this one's good for this piano. They don't come up crazy fast, but they do come up, all the way. If someone said, "Hey, I can't repeat on this all of a sudden," then I would maybe look at making them a touch faster. But I like the way it is in the tenor because you don't want double striking, wobbling, and when the spring's too wild, that'll happen sometimes. Okay, let's see here. All right, we're getting there. I'm gonna check the next time. I'm gonna check the lead off. See that it's fairly consistent. Okay. All right. To check the lead off on this piano, I'm going to do it inside the piano, and I'm going to do it by touching sound and feel. But before I do that, this is something normally I would do way back when, which is check the bedding of the keyframe. But I feel comfortable with everything I've done that we'll be okay here still. I'm going to grab this block for the camera and bring you down here where we're going to bed the keyframe. Okay. So for this, I'm making sure that the action is supported on these studs evenly and firmly. Hear a little knock on that one. I'm going to tighten it down until it makes contact with the rail below. Everything's pretty good. Just a tiny adjustment here. These go through the rail and they brace against the key bed below. These bolts, and so basically they're supporting the balance rail and just thus the keys. So just that little adjustment made it feel more solid to play on. Okay, like just a real solid platform. I'm just going to make sure it's not floating on the ends. Yeah. So all of those, we call them glide bolts. All of those glide bolts, they're the top looks like that, and my tool has a square opening so I can get on there and just rotate them down or up. They're all resting firmly and supporting the action with not too much friction. Again, that can go. We were talking about being able to press the quarter pedal easily. Okay, so that's good. Now I'm going to check lead off. And the lead off, I need my lead off tool. And my let off tool looks like this. So I can go in several different positions. And I'm making the adjustment down here, turning these buttons in the eye. Sorry, let me get back on the correct app there. Okay, so turning these buttons and the eye screws that go with them above, and that will make this jack tender hit that button sooner or later, which makes it trip out and release the hammer down, so the hammer will drop, will no longer be being actively pushed against the string. Okay, so the way I'm going to check it is I'm just going to play. I'm going to depress the pedal and play the. I'm going to put my. I'm going to play the key softly just to where I feel resistance, and then I'm going to push through fast. And I can make the hammer hit the string. So I'm checking, can I make them all hit the string? I can tell how close the let off is by how I can make it hit the string and how loudly it is, okay? And then I'm turning the buttons on the inside in response to that. So usually I'll do a soft, I'll push through softly and then more quickly, and those two parameters will tell me if I'm close enough. And if it hits the string when I play it softly, I know I'm too close. If it's too hard, if I have to push too hard to get it to hit the string, then I know I'm further away than the last one I checked. Of course, let off is just great on this piano so far. But this is just kind of checking the adjustment, I'm not making any earth-shattering adjustments here. It's for the most part just great. Just making a few refinements. C, middle C doesn't quite go down as far as some of the others, so I'm going to take out some punchings and allow it to go down further. It'll match the others. Again, this is setting let off by touch and feel and sound. And every once in a while, as I'm pushing through let off, I was always taught, we kind of call that the shelf. I'm pushing through the shelf. If I feel some keys that don't have as much follow through or aftertouch as the neighbors, I'm correcting that with the dip. Just to give them all, and that'll help the tone be even too, actually, which is counterintuitive because you'd say, well, it hits the key, the hammer's already hit the string by the time you hit the bottom of the keystroke, but it does affect the tone, how you're able to play the piano and the evenness. There are three factors, three things that affect aftertouch. Okay, and aftertouch is when we push the key to this shelf and then push through, how much keystroke is left, after that point. And the three things, really it's two things, but we say that the dip, how far the key travels down, the distance the hammer starts from the string, and let off, where the hammer lets off or escapes relative to the string. But really, let off is just the upper limit of how far the hammer travels, which we call a blow distance. So really there's just two things. It's just the hammer travel, the key travel, and the hammer travel, and their relation to each other. So if let off and the blow distance are set identical between two keys, and one has less aftertouch than the other, then it follows that the dip is what needs to be changed, okay? And these are all very uniformly set with the blow distance as I'm looking at it. So that's why I'm removing punchings on any that feel more shallow. This is just kind of a final refinement of the regulation that's already in place, which is really great. The action feels really good when I play this piano. I don't think to myself, oh, I need to re-regulate this piano. Okay. So I'm removing the punchings. Still checking let off as I go, kind of. For the most part, you can tell if there's a big problem with let off. you know, either it'll kind of hit the string on a soft blow and you'll feel that resistance in a weird way, or also what can happen is you might sorry, interrupting my thought there. Or if you try and play really softly, you might not be able to hit the string. Okay. Okay, so I'm happy with let off and all that. Happy with everything else with the regulation. So that basically means we're just about done on this. And yeah, it's really nice to play right now. think it's good. So it very effortlessly speaks out. Kind of thinks you're don't worry, I know the tuning's not perfect there. We can dress that up, but other than that, it's good. Okay, so the only thing I'm going to do now is we need obviously a new tuning on it, but I'm going to go ahead and start putting the upstop rail back on. That's nothing special, but it does have to be done. And well, this piano's pretty good. The only thing I don't like at this point is kind of the quality of the una corda pedal, but that will improve. And I can pick at it more. Someone mentioned, you know, when I do the first tuning after delivery and things like that. And I'll be the one looking after this piano. So I'll be able to kind of improve on that as we go forward. There's nothing that comes to mind that says, oh, well, I just need to do this right now and it'll sound great. I think it just needs to be more defined by playing it in a little bit. And because as was mentioned, I don't make the hammer to the strings in that position. I only worry about the regular position because I don't know. I think that would be difficult to do or impossible, but without affecting the regular position. So and this rail, if you ever put this rail back on, there's supposed to be a little bit of play upward in the keys and even across, but not so much that you don't need a lot, just a little bit of play. Let's see here if we can kind of show that. So when if I push down here, I want to pull up, I want to get a millimeter to a movement. Oops, frozen there. Millimeter to a movement on that. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out what hand to use here, like that, just a little bit. And then we'll cinch it down with the old nuts on the top. Oh, I do want to get a recording before I put everything back together so that it sounds the same as the other recording when we started voicing. And then I'll just publish that to YouTube without any editing here, just really quick. I'll just add it as an uncut thing. And there's that. Then I need my screwdriver for the screws that go in the sides of this thing. Nothing particular to be aware of on this. Thanks, Andrew. Happy to share. Thanks for joining. All right. Okay. Right. Again, do a little recording. I'm going to cinch these down. I think it's necessary to get the right tone. If it moves a little bit, you could really change the tone. You don't want to cinch these screws down too tight. The action should still return fine. And this action needs a little much pressure there. There we go. Okay, let me get my other phone and do that recording here. Let's hopefully get some better sound. Okay. All right, I'm just gonna record on that. And I don't know what I played. I played a little bit of fourth collage, what I did. The limit there. Yeah. That's really nice sustain. It goes a long time. Gonna fix one thing on that. Put the final touches here on this. Okay, I'm gonna put that video. I'm gonna post that. Anyway, sometimes the voicing's kind of a work in progress. always, you know, each time you tune it and everything. So I'll keep working on this, but it should be pretty good. So anyway, thanks for watching. And look forward to more projects, and we'll do some more live streaming. But I think for this project, we'll pretty much wrap it up. Thanks again for tuning in.